And sorry, can't help myself. Naela Ta'amaka. All right, welcome back. This is my third attempt at this video today because I had to delete loads of pictures and videos off of my phone. So let's get started. We're in the book of Jubilees, from the book that encompasses Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher. I got it from Amazon, and I'll make sure to put a picture of it so that you know where I'm reading from, so you can read along with me. And sorry, can't help myself. Without further ado, we will be reading chapters 7, 8, and 9. They're good. They're so good. It's about, well, I'll just get into it. And he placed all their offerings mingled with oil upon it. And afterwards he sprinkled wine on the fire, which he had previously made on the altar. And he placed incense on the altar and caused a sweet savor to ascend acceptable before the Lord his God. And he rejoiced and drank of this wine, he and his children, with joy. And it was evening, and he went into his tent, and being drunken, he lay down and slept, and was uncovered in his tent as he slept. And Ham saw Noah his father naked, and went forth and told his two brothers without. And Shem took his garment and arose, he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders, and went backwards and covered the shame of their father. And their faces were backward. And Noah awoke from his sleep, and knew all that his young son had done unto him. And he cursed his son, and said, Cursed be Canaan, an enslaved servant shall he be unto his brethren. And he blessed Shem, and said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and God shall dwell in the dwelling of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Ham knew that his father had cursed his young son, and was displeased that he had cursed his son. And he departed from his father, and he and his sons with him, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. And he built for himself a city, and called it after the name of his wife. Help me. That's not her name. This is me pleading for help and prayer as I try to read these names. And he built for himself a city, and called its name after the name of his wife, Naela Ta'amaka. And Japheth knew it, and Japheth saw it, and became envious of his brother. And he built for himself a city, and called its name after his wife, Adad-Tanaesis. And Shem dwelt with his father Noah, and he built a city close to his father on the mountain, and he called its name after the name of his wife, Lebab. And behold, these three cities were near Mount Lubar. Shem's wife fronting the mountain, Shem's land fronting the mountain on the east. Japheth's land, I'm trying not to read their names, so let me just read it the way it's supposed to be read. And behold, these three cities are near Mount Lubar. Sedek to Lebab, fronting the mountain on the east, and Naelatamak on the south, Adad-Tanesis towards the west. And these are the sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Apharxad. This son was born 2 years after the flood, and Lud and Aram. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Tiras. These are the sons of Noah. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noah began to enjoin upon his sons' the ordinances and commandments and all the judgment that he knew. And he exhorted his sons to observe the righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh, and to bless their Creator, and honor the father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity. For owing these three things came owing to these three things came the flood upon the earth, namely owing to the fornication wherein the watchers against the law of their ordinances went a whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves wives of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begat sons, the Nephidim, and they were all alike, and they devoured one another. And the giants slew the Nephil, and the Nephil slew the Eljo, and the Eljo mankind, and man one another. And every one sold himself to work iniquity, and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this they sinned against the beast and birds, and all that moveth and walketh on the earth, and much blood was shed on the earth, and every imagination and desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. And the Lord destroyed everything off the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth, he destroyed everything. And we were left, I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that ye do not walk in righteousness. For in the path of destruction ye have begun to walk, and ye are parting one from another, and are envious one of another. And so it cometh that ye are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see, and behold, the demons have begun their seduction against you, and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf, that after my death ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whosoever sheddeth man's blood, and whosoever eateth the blood of any flesh, will be destroyed from the earth. And there will not be left any man that eateth blood, or that sheddeth the blood of man on the earth. Nor will there be left to him any seed or descendants living under heaven. For into Sheol they will go, and into the place of condemnation will they descend, and into darkness of the deep will they all be removed by a violent death. There shall be no blood seen upon you, all the blood there is, and of all the blood there shall be all the days in which ye have killed any beast or cattle, or whatever flieth upon the earth, and work ye a good work to your souls, by covering that which hath been shed on the earth. And ye shall not be like him who eateth with blood, but guard yourselves, that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood, for thus have I been commanded to testify to you and your children, together with all flesh. And suffer not the soul to be eaten with the flesh, that your blood, which is your life, may not be required at the hand of any flesh that sheddeth it on the earth. For the earth will not be clean from the blood which hath been shed upon it. For only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified throughout all generations. And now, my children, hearken, work, judgment, and righteousness, that ye may be planted in righteousness over the face of the whole earth, and your glory lifted be before my God, who saved me from the waters of the flood. And behold, ye will go and build for yourselves cities, and plant in them all the plants that are upon the earth, and moreover all the fruit-bearing trees. For 3 years the fruit of everything that is eaten will not be gathered, and in the 4th year its fruit will be accounted holy, and they will offer the first fruits acceptable before the Most High God, who created heaven and earth and all things. Let them offer in abundance the first of the wine and oil as the first fruits on the altar of the Lord, and receiveth it. And what is left, let the servants of the house of the Lord eat before the altar which receiveth it. And in the 5th year make ye the release, so that ye release it in righteousness and uprightness. And yet shall be righteousness, and all that you plant will prosper. For thus did Enoch, the father of your father, command Methuselah, his son. And Methuselah, his son Lamech, and Lamech commanded me all the things which his father commanded him. And I also will give you commandment, my sons of Enoch. Command his son in the first Jubilees, whilst still living. In the 7th, in his generation, he commanded and testified to his sons and to his sons' sons until the day of his death. Chapter 8. In the 29th Jubilee, in the 1st week, in the beginning thereof, Arphaxad took to himself a wife, and her name was Razuajah, the daughter of Susan, the daughter of Elam. And she bare him a son in the 3rd year in this week, and he called his name Canaan. And the son grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and transcribed it, and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teachings of the watchers, in according with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it. And in the 13th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Milcah, the daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. And in the 4th year he begat a son, and called his name Shelah. For he said, truly I have been sent. And in the 4th year he was born, and Shelah grew up and took to himself a wife, and her name was Muach, the daughter of Kesed, his father's brother, in one of the 13th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. She bare him a son in the 5th year thereof, and he called his name Eber. And he took unto himself a wife, and her name was Azarad, the daughter of Nebrod, in the 32nd Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 3rd year thereof. And in the 6th year thereof she bare him a son, and he called his name Peleg. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide the earth amongst themselves. For this reason he called his name Peleg. And they divided it secretly amongst themselves, and told it to Noah. And it came to pass in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee that they divided the earth into 3 parts, for Shem and Ham and Japheth, according to the inheritance of each, in the 1st year, in the 1st week, when one of us who had been sent was with them. And he called his son, and they drew nigh to him, and they and their children, and he divided the earth into lots, which his 3 sons were to take in possession. And they reached forth their hands and took the writing out of the bosom of Noah their father. And there came forth on the writing as Shem's lot, the middle of the earth which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons, for the generations of eternity, for the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water from the river Tina. And his portion goeth toward west through the midst of the river, and it extendeth till it reached the water of the abysses, out of which this river goeth forth, and poureth its waters into the sea Miat. And this river floweth into the great sea. And all that is towards the north is Japheth's, and all that is towards the south belongs to Shem. And it extendeth till it reacheth Carasso. This is in the bosom of the tongue which looketh toward the south. In his portion extendeth along the great sea, and it extendeth in a straight line till it reacheth the west of the tongue which looketh toward the south, for this sea is named the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And it turneth from here towards the south, towards the mouth of the great sea, on the shore of its waters, and it extended west to Afra, and it extendeth till it reached the waters of the river Gihon, and to the south of the waters of Gihon, to the banks of this river. And it extendeth toward the east till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof, to the south, and from the east of the whole of Eden, and of the whole cast, it turneth to the east, and proceedeth till it reaches the east of the mountain Rapha. And it descendeth to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. This portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever, unto his generations forevermore. This portion Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his sons, and he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and may the Lord dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the holy of holies, and in the dwelling of the Lord, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other, and he blessed the God of gods, who had put the word in the Lord, who had put the word of the Lord into his mouth, and the Lord forevermore. And he knew that a blessed portion and a blessing had come to Shem and his sons unto the generations forever. The whole land of Eden, and the whole land of the Red Sea, and the whole land of the east, and India, and the Red Sea, and the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the land of Lebanon, and the islands of Kaftur, and all the mountains of Sinir and Amana, and the mountains of Ashur in the north, and all the land of Elam, Ashur and Babel, and Susan and Medai, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the region beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Asher or Ashur, towards the north. A blessed and spacious land, and all that is in it is very good. And for Ham came forth the second portion, beyond the Gihon towards the south, to the right of the garden. And it extendeth toward the south, and it extendeth to all the mountains of fire, and it extendeth toward the west to the sea of Hatel, and it extendeth toward the west till it reaches the sea of Muak, the sea into which everything which is not destroyed descendeth. And it goes forth towards the north to the limits of Gadir, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draweth near to the river Gihon, and goeth along the river Gihon till it reacheth the right of the Garden of Eden. And this is the land which came forth for Ham, as the portion which he had to occupy forever, for himself and his sons, unto their generations forever. And for Japheth came forth the third portion beyond the river of Tina, to the north of the overflow of its waters, and its extended northeasterly, to the whole region of Gog, and to all of the country east thereof. And it extendeth northerly to the north, and it extendeth to the mountains of Kelt, towards the north, and towards the sea of Muak. And it goes forth to the east of Gadir, as far as the region of the waters of the sea. And it extendeth until it approacheth the west of Farah, and it returneth towards Ephareg, and it extendeth easterly to the waters of the sea of Miet. And it extendeth to the region of the river Tina in a northeasterly direction, until it approacheth the boundary of its waters towards the mountain Rapha. And it turneth around towards the north. This is the land with which forth came for Japheth and his sons, as the portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and his sons for their generations forever. 5 great islands and a great land in the north, but it is cold. And the land of Ham is hot, and the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but it is a blend of cold and heat. Chapter 9. And Ham divided amongst his sons the first portion, came forth for Cush towards the east, and to the west of him for Mitzrayim, and for the west of him for Put, and for the west of him, and to the west thereof on the sea for Canaan. And Shem also divided amongst his sons. And the first portion came forth for Elam and his sons, to the east of the river Tigris, till it approacheth the east, the whole land of India. And on the Red Sea, and on its coast, and on the waters of Dedan, and all the mountains of Mimbri and Elah, and all the land of Susan, and all that is on the side of Farnak, to the Red Sea, and to the river Tina. And for Asher came forth the second portion, all the land of Asher, and Nineveh, and Shinar, and to the border of India, and it ascendeth and skirteth the river. And for Pharxad came forth the third portion, all the land of the region of the Chaldees, to the east of the Euphrates, bordering on the Red Sea, and all the desert, and all the waters of the desert close to the tongue of the sea, which looketh toward Egypt, all the land of Lebanon, and Sinir, and Amana, to the border of the Euphrates. And for Aram, there came forth the fourth portion, all the land of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, to the north of the Chaldees, to the border of the mountain of Asher, and the land of Azara. And there came forth for Lud the fifth portion, the mountain of Asher, and all appertaining to them, till it reacheth the great sea, until it reacheth the east of Asher his brother. And Japheth also divided the land of his inheritance amongst his sons. And the first portion came forth for Gomer, to the east from the north side to the river Tina, and to the north there came forth for Magog, all the inner portion of the north, until it reacheth the sea of Miet. And for Madai came forth as his portion, that he should possess for the west of his 2 brothers, to the islands and to the coasts of the island. And for Javan came forth the fourth portion, every island and the islands which are toward the border of Lud. And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion in the midst of the tongue, which approacheth towards the border of the portion of Lud, to the second tongue, to the region beyond the second tongue, unto the third tongue. And for Meshach came forth the sixth portion, all the region beyond the third tongue, which it approacheth the east of Gadir. And for Tiras there came forth the seventh portion, four great islands in the midst of the sea, which reach the portion of Ham, and the island of Kamaturi came out by lot for the sons of Apharxad as his inheritance. And thus the sons of Noah divided unto his sons in the presence of Noah their father. And he bound them all by an oath, imprecating a curse on every one that sought to seize the portion which had not fallen to him by lot. And they all said, so be it, so be it, for themselves and their sons forever, throughout their generations, till the day of judgment, on which the Lord God shall judge them with a sword and with fire, for all the unclean wickedness of their errors, wherewith they have filled the earth with transgression and uncleanness and fornication and sin. So that was chapter 7, 8, and 9. As you see, I was leaning to the side. It gets tiring reading out loud, but again, I'm so very, very glad to be able to share this with you. And honestly, I can say while I was reading this, I went down a serious rabbit hole, trying to figure out if, humbly, honestly, without really much information to go off of, trying to figure out where these portions of land were allocated, and not to the sons, but the sons, to Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And I Googled it, I found YouTube videos, and an issue that I have is, one, we can't trust our maps. That's something that that we all know, that the globe that we have isn't necessarily correct. Even the proportions, I should say, of each continent have been skewed. So we can't even trust that they made the US the right size, which is smaller than it really is, and Africa the right size, which is much larger than it really is. How can we really trust a modern map? And I don't have access to old maps because I don't have that kind of money or that kind of clout. But I just opened up my Google Maps and I was trying to figure it out. I'm trying to enlarge the screen and trying to, trying to figure it out. And honestly, it didn't lead me to anything but speculation. But I did mention that I think that there's something that I find really interesting in a lot of times in these YouTube videos when they allocate the land to the Shemitic people versus the Hamitic people and the Japhetic people. I currently live in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and there are many Israelites here. Many Israelites who say that their land, a portion of their land, is in Africa. But when you look up where Shem's land is, they'll give you this area that's known for really only housing Caucasian people. And those people are confused because they believe that the people of the Bible are white. They believe that those people who are in that Israeli, the nation of Israel or state of Israel, are actually the tribe of Judah, and they are not. They absolutely are not the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah was dispersed through slavery all over the world. They weren't placed in a land as of yet. We're still waiting to be called home. So when you're reading this and you're praying about it, ask God to confirm what you've heard, because we have a tendency to take the word of what people say when we should really be taking the word of the Most High. So my mouth is tired. So I am going to bid you adieu until next time. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.